People were almost using their home ownership like an ATM machine and getting more and more credit on their house. And then when the prices dropped, kaboom, that's a big tragedy in someone's life.
Yeah.
So the government, frankly, has put a whole lot of regulation in place for mortgage companies about, for instance, we used to call them no-doc loans, like these stated loans. People used to just come in and say, oh, I have this much money and I make this much money, and okay, we write a mortgage.
Yeah, well, it was unfortunate.
Not a good practice, as it turns out, because not everybody tells the truth about things.
Right.
But with the government regulating the mortgage industry, it's as if the mortgage industry is now regulating you and I to make better decisions, and that's a good thing.
That is correct, and that's part of it. So, meaning that if you do get too excited, listen, I just bought a house, and we found ourselves getting a little too excited and wanting to buy everything for the house and just, starting our family there, and we did get a little excited, and we had to step back and say, wait a minute, let's make sure we're still on track with our savings, retirement and college funds for the kids.
Right.
So, yes, you can get a little overexcited when buying a home because it is a big deal. But there are, again, those limitations put in place. But most importantly, you want to sit down and run your personal budget.
Yeah.
And make sure that you, as I call it, find your financial comfort zone when adding a housing expense to that personal budget of yours.
Yeah. In fact, let me just touch on some numbers. American Dreamer, you're listening to Michigan Real Talk. We're talking about home ownership done wisely so that you can build a future financial freedom for you and your family. Our good friend Linus Thalman with Summit Funding. Linus, I know that I think I know there are debt-to-income ratios that are set pretty much, what you can and can't do with a mortgage. And tell me if I'm right. I think the back-end high point is about 44%, something like that?
Yes.
44% ratio? Yes. That is debt-to-income ratio.
Yes. Your affordability is what it's basically for people that don't quite understand the debt-to-income ratio part of it. It's us saying that we have a number in mind of what we say you can afford max. Top end. Again, but that's the max, and sometimes that is out of your budget depending on other expenses and your savings, which I feel like you need to treat as an expense and put that in your budget.
You got to pay yourself first, right? That's a basic principle in your financial well-being. Pay yourself first. Build a future.
Yes.
But let's talk about that ratio, for instance. If we took a high number like 44%, for some of us, that's no problem. Let me just say, if I'm knocking down $20,000 a month in income, 50% is no big deal because I'm still holding on to $10,000 of income every month, right?
Sure, yeah.
So I can afford those kinds of ratios. But most of us don't live there.
Right.
Most of us live a much more middle-class existence, and every little dollar that comes through our hands, we better have a plan for it.
I think it's important to be aware, okay? And you need to be aware of your finances. So sitting down and doing a monthly budget every single month, no matter what housing situation you're in currently, is important. But it becomes extremely important that when you're preparing to purchase a home is that you do that.
Yeah. For instance, these debt-to-income ratios, a budget that makes more sense to me. This is just me talking. You're the guy who does mortgages. How about 35% debt-to-income ratio?
That's comfortable.
Now I'm holding 65% of my income
right.
for other reasons like paying my